About a radical redistribution of political and economic power. We must further recognize that the ghetto is a domestic colony. Black people must develop programs that will aid in the transfer of power and wealth into the hands of residents of the ghetto so that they may in reality control their own destinies.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
50 years ago this past, our nation paused to remember the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. April the 4th was the 50th anniversary of his tragic assassination. But we don't remember it just as simply losing a prophetic voice. We remember it because God afforded us a prince who helped to lead the way for so many issues that impacted many people in our country who had been oppressed and ostracized. Well, that legacy continues today. One of the things that many people may not remember is that when Dr. King died, he was actually in the midst of the Poor People's Campaign, and he was fighting on behalf of many poor people in our country. Well, not a whole lot has changed when it comes to economics. We might have bigger houses and we might live in some gated communities, but there are still so many people who are struggling day to day economically. Today we want to take a moment in remembrance of Dr. King, Poor People's Campaign, to deal with some issues economically that affect our country today. So today I'm privileged to welcome on stage here at the Luke Church two incredible people, Mr. Reginald Young, who's the Director of Food for Change at the Houston Food Bank.
All right. Woo.
Reginald's been at the food bank since 2010. He's helped to establish some wonderful relationships with non-traditional food bank partners in an effort to connect resources, the programs that help address the causes and consequences of insecurity. Got a BA from Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi, a Master of Arts in Cross-Cultural Studies at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. Let's give it up for this Reginald.
All right.
Praise God for one of our own, Ms. Jona Stout.
All right.
Founder of Healing Humanity Global. Jona's passion is to provide resources to help accumulate wealth and freedom. And her Stout Consulting LLC is a big part of helping many in our community today to understand what wealth building really means. She's recently become a certified trainer for our D-Free program here at the Luke Church, 12 Steps to Financial Freedom, and she serves in a number of different capacities to help us help others. Amen. Give it up for Ms. Jona. Reginald, I want to begin with you as we reflect and remember Dr. King's legacy. Can you help to shed some light on the many faces of poverty in our climate today that we don't see?
Absolutely. I think there's a big misconception that the only people impoverished are those that are homeless. In my work, we basically service about 800,000 people every year, and only about 7% of those individuals are homeless. About 50% of the people that we work with are people that have housing, and they're actually employed. And so we're talking about underemployed individuals, right? People that are impoverished look just like everybody in this room today. They look, I mean, they can be your neighbor, they can be your brother, they can be your sister. A lot of people don't talk about this, it's an invisible issue. One of the things that I've noticed over the course of the past few years in looking at this issue is essentially that you cannot judge a book by its cover.
That's right.
And so there's individuals who are driving cars that you will look at and be like, that's a bad car. But that might be the last thing that they have, and they're still holding on to that car.
Yeah,
they could be sleeping in that car.
Yeah.
And so the people that I've come across over the past few years are essentially people just like us, and they're always just one check away or one incident away. Health is real, and those bills are even realer. Right? And so definitely what I would encourage everybody to think about is that our people around our communities, people that we think of as our friends and so forth, a lot of them may need our help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
Thank you. Jonah, when we talk about the Poor People's Campaign, how does it resonate in today's culture and climate?
Well, like you said, Pastor, and thank you so much for having us here today. Like you said, nothing much has changed. And we're not talking about money when you start talking about poverty. We're talking about mindset. That's really what the issue is. As I said this morning, I travel globally with this campaign, if you would, financial literacy in the faith-based community, in the community at large. I can go to Africa and the income is $300 a month. I come back home and I'm talking to someone who's making $3,000 a month, and I'm connected to people as well who are making $30,000 a month, and they're all asking the same questions, they all have the same problem. So basically, nothing has changed because we haven't changed. We've become dependent on a system that we were only really supposedly giving access to, and that's what I like about Dr. King. When I hear his messages, I hear access. Not necessarily to bring me success, but access so that I can use the tools and use the system to my advantage so that I can create my own wealth.
And it's true.
That's good.
When you talk about the difference between us and many in other countries, that the biggest difference between wealth in those countries is the access to information and education.
Absolutely.
Reginald, the next question I want to ask for you is this. Considering that there are 48.8 million Americans, and that includes 16.2 million children who are faced with hunger every single day on a regular basis. You've got a great new program, two parts to this, a great new program at the food bank entitled Food for Change. How does that, number one, program address the efforts to eradicate poverty? And then how does the Houston Food Bank contribute holistically to ending poverty?
So over the past 10 years, the thing that we realized in doing hunger relief is that you cannot throw food at the problem of poverty. Right. So people that are impoverished, people that get our resources, we talk to them. We say, okay, if we give you this food, what else do you need? And they need a lot of things, right? They need housing. They need health care. They need access to new employment. They need training so they can acquire better employment. And so what we do for Food for Change is we try to partner with those organizations that provide those additional resources and provide food through those organizations so that we can make it easier for those people to complete those programs. College students, right? I've been hungry in college before. There's a lot of students around our region that go hungry every night. Some of them are sleeping in their cars and they don't have textbooks, but they're going to make it through. And the thing that we do is we'll partner with that college, identify those students, we'll give them a food scholarship, a scholarship of food to sustain them while they're participating in their college so that they can complete their graduate on time.
Well, talking about that, what would you ask of us when you talk about the church being able to partner and participate? Is there anything you'd say that we can do individually to help in this effort?
So the great thing about this church is bounded in giving, right? And so there's a lot of things you can do, right? You can give your time. You can volunteer in different organizations around the region to help people that are impoverished. The one thing that I always say, and we mentioned this earlier, is that the people that are impoverished within our communities are brothers and sisters. Right. And we should really think about how we connect to those communities. And we have a lot of ways that we can do it. There's a lot of ways that we can go out, we can provide money, we can provide ourselves, but really it is how do we connect and how do we identify what is the best way that we can serve based on what we have.
Jona, I was this week, as we celebrated this 50th anniversary, I was at Morehouse College, my alma mater, and we were celebrating one of our most beloved alums, Dr. King, and we brought in to speak Dr. DeForest Soares, a friend of our church, and also the architect of the D-Free program, which is helping people deal with our biggest issue today, and that's the noose of debt. Tell me a little bit about how D-Free, dealing with debt, really can help people develop financial freedom and control their destiny.
I absolutely love the program. And the reason why I love the program, Pastor, is because I said it earlier, this is not about money. This is about mindset. And the D-Free lifestyle, we had our first class this past Monday. The first class is admit the problem.
Yeah.
Why do you have more month than money? It's because you have a problem managing what you have. And so we deal with that. Now this week, and we got homework coming into this week, is okay, now that we've admitted the problem, let's address the mess. That we've created. The government didn't create this mess.
Right.
You know, we created this. And instead of us waiting for a job, and I said this earlier to someone, I said, when I got laid off from a job, one of the things that I said to myself from that job is that I would never have one stream of income being in control over my roof, over the roof over my head. I didn't do anything wrong. They made a decision that was for them. I have to make a decision and look out for myself. And so that's what I encourage people to do is to, Dr. Soares deals with the mindset, why do we need all these suits? Why do we need this car? You know, why do I need this house that I can't afford and my debt to income ratio is out of order? And D-Free deals with all of that. It deals with the why. For so long, I don't understand why I can't do this. Well, let's talk about your mindset. Why when you go through Macy's, you feel like you have to buy every shoe? We had an example. Young lady, I'm going to go there. Young lady in the class said, this past Monday, she said, I have a small feet, and I feel like every time I go in the store, if I see shoes in my size, I better get them. So what are you saying? God could clothe the children of Israel in the desert, and their shoes didn't wear out? But you can't trust him, you know, to make sure that you have shoes on your feet. And so we really have to start walking out the door.
That's good. That's good.
One of the big things is that we don't want to admit, you said earlier, we don't want to admit that we have issues with debt. Look to your left, please. Okay, look to your right.
Right here.
You just looked at somebody who got an issue with debt.
Right here.
Somebody, they got a problem with debt that has in some way haunted them or their family.
Those are student loans.
And we don't want to admit it because we're sitting here doing this. How do we address that? Why is it so critical to say, listen, quit worrying about pride and ego. Let's get to the root of the issue, and what will it do not only for you, but for generations to come, and for those who we can help who struggle with many of the things that we get access to instantly.
Absolutely. Pastor, I have a lot of friends that are from different cultures, and I was with an Asian friend of mine, and we were having this cultural conversation. And he said, Jona, it's not that I hate your brother or your sister, I just love my brother and sister more. So, business-wise, I support them. If they're hungry, I feed them. If you know that somebody is unemployed and the wife is not working and the wife is pregnant, you don't need the Houston Food Bank if you got an extra $30. Get a bag of groceries when you go to the grocery store and say, hey, I just want to be a blessing. Don't try to humble them and put them in a position. They already feel bad. Well, why did you call me and tell me that I've been unemployed for 3 months? Just pick up those groceries and drop them off. And I just want to be a blessing to your family. So we've got to start what I call cooperative living. Our grandparents did it.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Dr. King once said that in reflecting on the sermon of the Good Samaritan, or the story of the Good Samaritan, he says that so often we look at the Good Samaritan going down and helping that person, and the question is asked, what's going to happen to me if I stop? When really the question we ought to be asking is, what's going to happen to them if we don't stop?
My God. Yeah.
And that's the challenge of our culture and the nation today, is to put the focus on those who are less fortunate, those who are dealing with some major obstacles and struggles, rather than always worrying about us and what we're going to get or what we're going to lose. Amen?
Amen.
Would y'all help me celebrate them? Thank you. After service, they're going to be out in the foyer. They've got a number of different resources available, financial literacy resources, information on child hunger, and there are a couple of the websites that you can go to, and I hope that you'll stop by and pick up some information and find out how can I be a part of the solution. Amen?
Amen.
Well, listen, also, this is National Autism Awareness Month.